I highly recommend this modification if you, like us, are towing a big van around Australia. We've got a 23-foot van, and my biggest concern was having engine braking going down steep hills, and the torque lock-up kit with the Nomad valve body gives us that right down to first gear, and also really good fuel savings. So I hope you enjoy. Okay, so I'm just here with Rod at Wholesale Automatics, and we've just had a torque lock-up kit fitted and their Nomad valve body. So I'll just get Rod to give you a bit of a run through. This is a valve body here of how they work normally and what they sort of do to it to improve it. The main reason you do it is so you can get lock-up in first gear, and that's what we want, because obviously we tow a heavy caravan. So.
Well, the Nomad valve body does many things. It fixes all the factory faults. So whenever you bring out a new car, sometimes it takes several years for the manufacturer to realise that they've made little mistakes or little hiccups and that, right? And they'll do upgrades as well. But anybody that's already bought that car have not had those upgrades done. And so we fix all that up. So whenever we do a Nomad valve body, we always put the latest upgrades that need to go in that valve body. It is true, we also do it for engine braking in first gear. That's not applicable for some models, but it certainly is for all the Toyotas, many of the Isuzu, Parado, Tritons and bits and pieces like that. Not so much the Nissans, it was with the GQ, with the GU, no, factory already did an upgrade. That was one of the upgrades they did, so it didn't have to do it, so it varies from model to model. Obviously, we're trying to make the valve body cope with the Australian way of life. When the manufacturer builds a valve body, they make it so it suits a worldwide market, the widest possible market that they can do. But let's face it, if you've got a 200 series in Europe, you don't tow. No one tows with the 200 series in Europe. They all tow with little diesel Kias and little Fords and everything like that. And the reason being is that you don't get a Caravan in Europe that's over 1.5 tons, right? It's completely different. Over here, we'll turn around and throw 3.5 tons at these vehicles. And the distance from here to Melbourne to Brisbane in Europe, you're crossing 7 borders, right? They just don't travel those distances. So not only are they towing a lightweight vehicle, but their trips are very, very short. 3 to 4 hours is maxed out. Here in Australia, we get people that are quite happily to do 8 hours, some even longer, you know. And so vast distances, our temperatures are nowhere near as cold as what they are in Europe. Europe, they get into sub-freezing. Europe doesn't get into the hot temperatures that we do. So they're trying to get one valve body to do a very, very broad thing. So here in Australia, we're very Pacific. We'll turn around and build these valve bodies for the Australian way of life.
Yeah, that's great.
We know exactly sort of the distances you're going to attempt. We know that you're going to put bull bars on, you're going to put off-road tyres on, you're going to be towing the 3.5 tonne or 2.5 tonne, whatever. You're going to put roof racks, you're going to put driving lights in the front that restricts flow and all these bits and pieces and that. So this helps us make the transmission more durable, given the fact that we know what the customer in Australia are going to do. You know, we raise pressures, we make things tweak a little bit better, knowing faults, knowing feedbacks that we get from customers that even the manufacturers never addressed. All right, we'll turn around and make those tweaks as well. So not only are we taking the known factory faults out, we also listen to the customers, get feedbacks, we upgrade from there, we make it so it's capable of not only just putting a bull bar and a set of tyres on, and like not everybody tows, but the same valve body will do those who do tow and those who don't. So it's a very all-round valve body. Also gives you better fuel economy. We normally get about an extra litre per 100 out of them, and that's simply because we're raising the pressure in the torque converter, and if you raise pressure inside a captive vessel, the thicker the oil, the higher the viscosity turns, and that, which means it slips less.
Okay.
So it actually generates less heat, gives you slightly better engine braking, and gives you a slightly better fuel economy. Although it's not well beating, but anybody would want that extra litre if it's for free, and you're doing a valve body.
Especially the Nomads out there.
Yeah. It also gives the auto a big birthday, because as you're fitting them, you're obviously putting a new oil filter, pan gasket, a full flush, full oil and everything. So instead of paying for a separate service, it all comes as part of doing the valve body. So that's pretty much the valve body in a nutshell, and they're all built here in Melbourne.
We're going to go for a run. So we've had the temp gauge put in. Rod will just explain as we go along.
You have. I mean, the temp gauge is probably one of the all-time things that I believe that every customer should have, without a doubt. Because the temp gauge not only shows you when it's overheating, but it also teaches you very quickly. So over the next 3 months, you will learn what the transmission does and doesn't like.
Yeah, well, that's what I really like, the idea.
Yep. And not only will you learn what the transmission does and doesn't like, you will almost preempt that under this circumstance, going up this top of hill, you'll go, I reckon she'll go 80 degrees, because it's taught you what temperatures
I'd hate to think what we're
normal.
up to before some of the bloody hills.
So because you'll be able to preempt and you'll get used to what temperatures it does or gets to under certain circumstances, you'll very quickly pick when it's not right.
Yep.
And you'll go, why isn't it right? And you can react much quicker.
Yep.
In some models, particularly this one, this is a 100 series, the temp light comes on at 150. In later model vehicles, such as like all the Isuzus and the Prado 150s and all that, the 200 series, they've actually lowered that down to about 132. Because like transmissions today are a little bit more delicate of what they were in the yesteryear, so they brought that temperature down.
So apart from the newer models, it's even more important in something like this, because 150 is the end of the gauge.
Oh, we deliberately, when we do our temp gauges, we make the temp gauge max out. There are some people out there, they do gauges and they go up to like 180 and 200. What's the use of having a gauge? No. So we actually do a gauge that's very restrictive, and it goes to 150. What I like about an analog gauge is that it's a needle, so at a glimpse, you can tell whether it's good or whether it's bad. Don't even need to see the numbers. You can very quickly look and go, oh, she's in the good side or she's in the bad side. Cool. What I don't like is a lot of people go, oh, just get a scan gauge. And they hide the scan gauge down here, or they have it behind here and that, right? Jesus. And you just can't see it. No. And the scan gauge is glary, it's in your face at night, and then everybody turns them down a little bit now, and all of a sudden you turn around and you go, yeah, when the car's stopped like this, yes, you can look at your scan gauge carefully, right? But you can't be doing that while you're driving along in amongst traffic or something like that.
Van and things, you've got your eyes on the road.
If you've got a separate temperature gauge, you can just simply glimpse, that's it, done.
Yeah, imagine.
You know whether she's good or bad straight away. With the scan gauge, don't get me wrong, there's nothing wrong with the scan gauge. It has other great benefits, especially for looking for faults and resetting and all those type of things, But monitoring the transmission temperature, not at all. Right? You should always, even if you do have a scan gauge, we recommend people, and we've got many customers that do, they have a scan gauge, but they still put a separate transmission gauge in, because it's the number one that they need to see all the time. You know, if you can turn your scan gauge so it indicates just one thing, make it your transmission temperature, turn the rest off, right? Because you need it to be big and obvious and in your face, right? No good having it down here or under here or anywhere like that, you know, but to me, a separate temperature gauge, that's the way to go. You can get many of them in pillar pods now, right, for many of the models and all that, and the rest we just put up in the corner of the dash up here, because it's really, really easy to see, and it's really, really easy to do. Changes ever so slightly, a little bit firmer. We don't want to do them real firm. No one wants to have a real firm shift. So we don't call them a shift kit or anything like that. They're a recalibrated valve body. We just raise the bar with them and recalibrate them, so they're more capable with what you intend to do with the vehicle. And you'll notice that when you drive it, you will notice that there's a little bit crisper. Instant shifts, so there's none of this flaring, indecisiveness, all that's taken out. The auto will feel a little bit tighter. Less
Is that
slipping.
because of the less slip?
Yeah, that's right. There's a lot less slip in it. Not only from the transmission point of view, but also from the torque converter is physically slipping less as well.
Okay.
So it tightens the torque converter up, like I said, by raising the pressure up a little bit more in there as well. But she still drives nice and smoothly. That's the good part about it.
And one thing too I know that I was interested in, we're on the gear lever on these, I presume this is a 5-speed. You've only got L2, so how do you actually select?
You
low?
You got L2 and L1 is next to it.
Okay, that's next to it. So you just put that in and then you flick your...
so if you've got a 100 series and you've got this is what we call a gate shifter. So we're in 5th gear now, which is wild.
Okay.
It indicates it's fifth, but you're actually in drive.
Yep.
Right? Because they're not a manual shift, what they are is a range. So it limits your range of gears. So if you put it in, like manual 4,
Yep.
it means that if you take off from a standing start, it'll take off first, second, third, fourth, and stops in fourth. It won't go any higher.
Okay.
You bring it down to third. So now I'm in fourth, right? Now I'm in third.
Yep.
Now I'm in second.
Yep.
Right? Slow it down a little bit, give it a bit of peace. That's one.
Yeah, okay.
Right?
So that's what you couldn't do that.
That's one.
If you didn't have the Nomad.
No, she would still do that.
Still
before.
do that. Okay.
She would still do that before. But now we're in second, third,
Yep.
fourth,
fifth.
and then fifth. Now she's not in fifth because we're not going fast enough. But so if you basically put this in fourth, right, and you take off from a standing start, which we will do here now. So I'm going to put it in drive 4.
Yep.
Right. Come to a complete stop. Come around the corner. I'll come to a complete stop. There's no one behind me. Right. Come at a complete stop. We take off. There you go. She's taken off in first gear.
First, second.
And she'll change up like normal. Second.
Third.
Here we go. Go up. While we're getting going. Third. And then as I back off now because I'm in a 60 k's, that's it. She's in fourth.
Okay.
Right? So it limits it. Now if I did the same in third, brought it down, stop at a complete stop,
She'll go first, second, third.
and then she'll still take off in first. She'll go second, she's in third.
Yep.
Right? So, but you won't go any higher.
Yeah.
Right?
That's great.
So what they are, they're a range. They tell you that you don't want to go any higher than a set gear, but they also work in engine braking. So if you're coming down a hill, you can actually put it into fourth and it'll engine brake in fourth. Go back to third. It'll go back to third as long as it thinks you're not going to over rev the engine.
Mm-hmm.
That's a big thing with it.
Yeah.
Right? Because you don't want to peg the engine and that. And all these range methods that they have built into these systems, Toyota's very, very smart and has them in such a way that they protect the engine and everything like that. They protect the driver. They estimate how high is too high an RPM, but also they account for the fact that you could be in the wet when you do it. And they don't want the back wheel sliding like you just pulled the handbrake on or anything like that. Right? So we'll put that back in drive. Pull outside, you can see.
Yeah.
Off we go. A little bit more power into it. See, so now I'm at just over half throttle, and you'll see the 1-2 was the same. The rest of the gears are coming alive now because you're raising the pressure up even more on top of what the valve body's done.
Yep.
And it just makes it more reliable, especially if you tow. It's very preempt that it raises the pressure up a little bit more. Remembering that this car, when they built this car, they didn't know whether you're going to tow or not.
Nah.
Just like trader utes of today, they suspect that all trader utes are just going to carry a bucket and spade in the back and nothing else. But in Australia, manufacturers have a fit because if they tell someone you can tow 3.5 tonne, there will be people out there that will put 3.5 tonne. Now 3.5 tonne on anything that's got drum brake rear end and lightweight chassis is a bit of a high demand.
Yeah.
So we do the same thing. We do valve bodies, we do big oil cooler kits, temp gauge kits, big cast element band, everything that we can do to make them more reliable for what the people are realistically going to do with it.
Yeah, sure.
The 100 series wasn't too bad. Toyota knew that people were going to tow, but they didn't know they were going to tow all the time or anything. So we upgrade. We make it so, we counter for people. And not all of our customers actually even tow. Some of them have got bigger tyres and everything, and they just want it to shift much nicer, and all the little flares and the little, when it kicks down, it takes its time. Now when you kick down, right,
it's
instant.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean?
It's actually much smoother
instant.
too than I thought, because I did read that you get a crisper gear change, but it's really not that much different.
Yeah,
you
a lot of people used to
there's...
think, it thumps in. No, that doesn't actually happen at all.
But you can feel there's no lag.
If we put an extreme valve body in, it is a little bit more thumpy.
Yeah.
But it's also made for the young at heart that like a firmer shift. As with the Nomad, is made for the Nomads. Yeah, it's made for the people that want reliability but they don't want firm shifts.
And with the torque lockup kit,
The lock-up kit, yep.
So you go into first gear, and like if you can explain when to put it on and when not to, and
Well, in all the circumstances that we've driven so far, you would never put
No.
lock-up on.
no.
A lock-up is one of those things that you only use in two circumstances, right? One of them is for engine braking.
Yeah. Well, that's where
Now-
most caravanners are going to use it.
Yep, they can use it in engine braking in both low range, or if you're off-road, or high range, especially if you're towing, you're coming down through any of the steep hills, you can turn the lock-up on, and as you manually
And
brake,
go into low.
you get 100% engine braking with
Yep.
with your lock-up as you're going, right? In these circumstances, driving around at 70, 80 k's, you're not going to use the lock-up. You're not towing. There's no need. The factory system will work adequate in these circumstances, right? But if you're towing and you're on the highway and you've got a bit of a headwind and you just won't stay in lock-up and whatever, you can turn
Yep.
the lock-up then and actually hold it.
Because that's one problem I've had a lot. We've done like 20-something thousand kilometres so far around Australia, and out on the flat roads,
Yep.
which you think is great, but I find it wants to go, I can't keep it in fifth gear all the time. It wants to drop back to fourth.
Now, that's fine if that happens, but if you then turn your lock-up on, you'll get absolutely 100% efficiency, even though you're in fourth gear and you're towing under load. And even if you're just say you're on the Tanami track, the Gibb River, any of those ones where you can realistically only go 60 k's an hour, just because it's just too rough, but you're still towing, you're on those tracks.
But I can lock
Lock-ups-
it in fifth.
No, if you lock it in fifth, it'll actually just choose whatever gear it wants to.
Cool, okay.
Right? But you can put it in fourth, you can put it in third, right? See, now, turn the lock-up on, so now lock-up's on. You actually felt a bit of a bump,
Yeah.
because it took up all the slip in it. Took up the whole lot.
Okay.
I need to turn it off now, because I'm coming to a stop.
Yeah, because they will stall when you stop, when they're like
In
a
this
manual.
model, it will stall when you stop. But this one is designed to give you engine braking all the way down to an idle.
Yeah, well, that's brilliant. It's the biggest thing for caravans we find. Look, with the Great Dividing Range running down the whole East Coast, so many nomads shit themselves with trying to cross it. And
So, just for your information, I'll put it on now.
yeah,
Right? Now you felt that slip,
Yeah, a
right?
little bit.
Now we're going up a gear. You felt that, and you felt it. So I'm actually driving along way too slow. I'm at 40 k's an hour, I've got the lock-up on, right? It's not destroying nothing, it's not hurting nothing, but it doesn't feel right. It feels too tight, a bit laggy, right? Because we're not allowing the turbo to come up and boost. It's no good having the lock-up on all the time,
No.
right? If you're at highway speed, you've already got all the inertia, you've already got all the motion going, right? We're slowing down now, so I turn it off. Okay. And I'll do it. I'll pull it to a stop. I'll pull over here. I'm going to turn the lock up on, and I'm going to force the car to a stop.
yeah, okay.
That's it.
Just like a manual.
I've deliberately stalled that. Right. Now you can possibly do that as many as 200 times in a row. You won't hurt it. Right. It's just like coming to a stop in a manual without putting your foot on the clutch.
So the main times to use it is downhill braking,
Yep.
and what else? Just mainly.
For fuel economy. So if you are doing the long runs, you're going from here to like Melbourne to Sydney,
Yep.
Sydney to wherever, Perth. You're going up to the Cape. You're going up to the Kimberley, whatever. You're on the open roads. You could have headwind, whatever. You just turn the lock up. So most people, when they're towing, they get it up to speed. They get it up to their, whatever they're towing, 90 or 100 k's an hour. And they just physically turn the lock up on, and then they'll just drive along for the next 2 or 3 hours, and it just gives them 100% efficiency.
Okay.
In the case of a 200 series, if you're towing 3.5 tonnes with a 200 series, that's as much as 6 litres per 100 it'll save you. In a 1HD FTE, which is this one, it'll give you 3.5 litres per 100.
That's great.
Right? That's if you're towing. If you're only towing like a little camper van that's 2 tonnes, it'll probably give you 2 litres per 100. Remembering that the valve body gives you 1 litre per 100 all the time until you turn the lock-up on. Then the lock-up overrides what the valve body does, because what happens is that the valve body gives you 1 litre per 100 by raising the pressure in a captive vessel, which is the torque converter. All right. The lock-up applies the clutch in the same torque converter and makes it one-on-one.
Okay.
Right?
Right.
So therefore, it's not 1 litre plus 3.5 litres. It's no. It's 1 litre. Then when you turn the lock-up on, then that's 3.5 litres. Right? Not 3.5 plus 1. It's
Cool.
3.5, right? It becomes 3.5, right?
That's brilliant.
So there's no harm in doing it. We do have another lock-up model coming out later this year, which will do two different things. One is you can still use it like this way, which is the manual switch. You can get away with all of that. And also for those people that are a little bit nervous and they're worried about coming to a stop and stalling, it'll actually turn itself off.
Okay.
Right? And you can set it via an app on your phone. You'll actually have an app on your phone, and you can set your speeds of what you want it to come on and off, and you'll have 5 presets on it.
God, brilliant.
Each one of those are infinitely adjustable, right? So you can have it come on at different speeds and come off at different speeds. So you can use one for low range, you can use 4 for high range. You might have one just for everyday driving, which means you can use it for everyday driving. And you think, oh, the lockup never comes on in it. You can actually set it all up. And you can have one for towing a lightweight, you can have one for towing a heavyweight. You might even have one for doing the low speed stuff, like at 60 k's an hour is your average across the dirt roads, you know, like the Tanamite, the Gid River, all those big long roads, you know, the development roads and everything, out to the York and everything. You can set it all up for that. And anybody that does have the older model, there is also a kit that actually does an upgrade of that to the latest model. So all the wiring loom that they put in, you haven't actually wasted it, and it's a cheaper kit. Because we've had this same kit now. This is what we call the Generation 2 kit, or the Gen 2 kit. And we've been doing this one for about 8 years, 8, 9 years. We used to originally do an old relay system that was copied by someone else. And then they just made it so it's an automated, but it's still an old relay system. You don't want that one. And now we're doing a computer, and all Bluetooth. And the new lockup kit will actually run underwater completely and everything else like that. Like it's full IP rated, the whole like dust proof,
That's great.
everything like that.
Well, we hope you enjoyed this. If you want to find anything else out about the Nomad valve bodies and hook lock kits, please feel free to either contact me or contact the boys down at Wholesale Automatics at Bayswater in Victoria. Thanks for watching, and please subscribe.
Is there something I can send you from across the sea? From the place that I'll be landing. There's nothing you can send me, my own true love. There's nothing I'm wishing to be on me. Just carry yourself back to me on the spot. From across that lonesome ocean. But I just thought you might want something fine, made of silver or golden, either from the mountains of Madrid or from the coast of Barcelona. But if I had the stars from the darkest night and the diamonds from the deepest ocean, I forsake them all for your sweet kiss. For that's all I'm wishing to be on. Well, I might be gone a long, long time, and it's only that I'm asking. Is there something I can send you to remember me by, to make the time more easy passing? Oh, how can you ask me again? It only brings me sorrow. Same thing I would want from you today, I would want again tomorrow. Well, I got a letter on a lonesome day. It was from her ship a-sailing, saying I don't know when I'll be coming back again. sure your mind is roaming. I'm sure your thoughts are not with me, but to the country to where you're going. So take heed of the western wind. Take heed of the stormy weather. Yes, there's something you can send back to me. Spanish boots of Spanish leather. Spanish boots of Spanish leather. Going away for leave you, love. Going away for a while, and I will return to you somehow if I go 10,000 miles. The storms are on the ocean, the heavens may cease to be. The world may lose its motion, love, if I prove false to thee. Oh, who will shoe your pretty little film? Who will glove your hand? Who will kiss your rosy red cheeks when I'm in a far-off land? The storms are on the ocean, though the heavens may cease to be. The world may lose its motion, though if I prove false to thee. Daddy will glove my pretty little foot, Mama will shoe my hand, and you can kiss my rosy red lips, and you'll come back. The storms are on the ocean, the heavens may cease to be. The world may lose its motion, love, if I prove false to thee. Oh, have you seen the mournful dove flying from pine to pine, mourning for its own true loves like I mourn for mine? The storms are on the ocean, heavens may cease to be. The world may lose its motion, love, if I prove false to thee. I'll never go back to the ocean, love, I'll never go back to the sea. Never go back on my brown-eyed girl till she goes back on me. The storms are on the ocean, love, the heavens may cease to be. The world may lose its motion, love, if I prove false to thee. The storms are on the ocean, love, heavens may cease to be. The world may lose its motion, love, if I prove false to thee. Lonely mother standing out of her window, looking at a son that she just can't touch. If at any time she's in a jam, he'll be by her side, but he doesn't realize he hurts her so much. But all the praying just ain't helping at all, 'cause he can't keep himself out of trouble. He goes and makes his money the best way he knows how. Another body lying dead in the gutter. precious, has a natural attraction to temptation, body just cannot see. She give him loving that his body can't handle, and all he can say is, baby, is good to me. One day he wakes and takes a look in the mirror. He doesn't recognize his own face. And he doesn't know why 3 letters took him to his final resting place. Resting place. Oh, don't go chasing waterfalls. Please stick to the rivers and the lakes that you used to. I know that you're gonna have it your way or nothing at all, but I think you're moving too fast. Yo. I seen a rainbow yesterday, but too many clouds coming and gone, leaving a trace of not one God-given ray. Is it because my life is 10 shades of grey? I pray all 10 fade away, seldom praising for the sunny days. I like his promises true, only my faith can undo the many chances I blew to bring my life to a clear and blue, unconditional skies. Dry the tears from my cries, one lonely cries. My only bleeding hope is that the folks who can't cope with such enduring pain that it keeps them in the pouring rain. Who's to blame for two and came into your own vein? It's such a shame you ain't shooting who's hung out the brain and blame the insane. At this day and time, and say the persistent got you victim to your own mind. Dreams of hopeless aspirations and the hopes coming true. Believe in yourself, the rest is up to me. Don't go chasing waterfalls. Please stick to the rivers and the lakes that you used to. Know that you're gonna have it your way or nothing at all. But I think you're moving too fast. Don't go chasing waterfalls. Please stick to